Hey guys, Brewery 602 Beer Reviews here, at Brewery 602 on Instagram. My name is Marcus. Today, I'm going to brew a beer. So I thought I'd do a quick breakdown of my brew system and my brewing process. So here are the grains that I'll be milling. I got some German Pils, and then I have some German malt, wheat, and I have some German Carafoam. So as you can see, I have all these German malts and grains that I will be doing a Hefeweizen. So we're in spring right now. You're going to hear dogs and birds and everything else. But I thought I'd go ahead and show my brewing process. And what I did here is I went ahead and pulled 3 ounces of water. And I'm going to put all these grains into my bucket here. And I'm going to condition them. And what that means is these grains have a husk on them, and I want to crush these husks in my grain mill. So here's my mill, and I actually will kind of wet and moisten these just slightly, and what that does is it allows for that husk to remain intact when I crush, and that gives a good filter whenever I have to lauter. So we'll go through those terms and stuff a little bit later, but I thought I'd just show you this. I'm going to go ahead and condition these grains and get them in the mill. Alright guys, so it's been 10 minutes. My grains are moistened, as you can see. And I did go ahead and mix all the grains together. Typically, if you're not going to do what I did as far as conditioning the grains and moistening them, then I would recommend milling wheat and Pilsner malts separately. Reason being is you have different sizes. So your wheat is going to be smaller than so wheat's much smaller than your Pilsner malt. So you'd like to crush those separately, try to get a nice even crush on them. I crushed everything at 0.028, and that's really small, but considering I condition the grains, they hold intact very well, and that size does well for both wheat and Pils. So I'm going to go ahead and add these grains in and start crushing. Okay, so I can hold about 7 pounds of grains in my mill, and just use my old Black & Decker and give her a whirl. Okay gang, so here's the milled grains, and as you can see, there's kind of a flour material from the grains, but also these husks are intact. So these husks are going to help create a grain bed and filter, so that way I don't have a stuck sparge. So trust me, if you've never conditioned your grains, do it. Conditioning the grains, the formula is take the pounds of grains, multiply that by 16, and then multiply that again by 0.02, and that'll give you how many ounces of water you need. So that is my grains ready to be mashed, and then in a second I will show you my brew system. Okay guys, so I actually have mashed in, which means I just put some hot water in here. I started with 3 gallons. And put my grains in here, and now I'm just using a big whisk and whisking, making sure there's no dough balls or anything like that left over. You want to get as much grain as you want, as you can, I'm sorry, to be in the mash. So just work it a little bit. Now I'm doing a little bit of a step mash here, so I actually mashed in at a lower temperature, and as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and cover it. That's my mash done. But so my temperature is at 134, which is exactly where I want it to be. I want it to be between 132 to 135. So at 134, and I'm going to turn on my BrewTech here, and we'll go ahead and set a temperature for it. So we'll get that going, and I'm going to keep it at 134 for about 20 minutes. Then after 20 minutes, I will start adding hot water, or sorry, hot liquor. Anytime you use brewing water, it's called liquor. So I'm going to heat this up to about 180 degrees and then slowly add it to my mash tun, raising my temperature to about 152, which I'll go ahead and leave it there for another 30 minutes. So we'll go ahead and get that started. All right guys, so it's been 20 minutes. I heated my liquor to 170 degrees approximately. Right now, I'm just going to use gravity to go ahead and feed in hot water or hot liquor into my mash tun. As you can see, I'm at 136 degrees, and the reason why the temperature went up is because my mash tun actually has a heating pad under it, and it wants it to get to 154, which I usually like to mash in at, but we'll get it there now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly add this hot liquor until I get to my 154 degrees. Alright guys, so added the hot water, or hot liquor, and got my temperature 152 degrees. It's where I want to be. My actual SS heat pad is going to try to get it to, I think, the 155 range, which is perfect. You want to be somewhere around there. And I'm going to hold that temperature for probably about 30 to 45 minutes. So this mash process is a little bit longer than most. Typically you just go mash in one step at 152 degrees for an hour, and you'll achieve your conversion. Conversion is basically converting those malts and extracting sugars from those. Now I'll show you my all grain system. I do have a 3-vessel system, which basically means I have an HLT, which is a hot liquor tank, which I use is called a kegel. This is just a converted keg, cut the top off and added these fittings. And what I do is I heat my liquor here with a burner. I do use propane, and then go ahead and move that liquor into my mash tun. Now this is an SS Brewtech 10-gallon mash tun. It's fully insulated. It'll hold temperature. It does have a heat pad underneath it, hence all the wires coming off of it. And that heat pad will keep me exactly where I need to be for the amount of time I want to be. So what I do from there is I do have 2 pumps. So you can see I have a little Mark II pump down here, and then another one right here. So what I could do is that allows me to just move the wort and the hot liquor around whenever I need to. And worst case scenario is I could go gravity feed, which is just allowing gravity to let the water move. So that's the default if a pump goes out. Now this is my boil kettle. What I do is after you mash your grains here, you want to move the liquid you get, it's called wort at that point, and you want to move that into your boil kettle because you want to boil it. As you can see, this is the kegel again. It's a 15.5 gallon keg converted, and as you can see inside I do have a whirlpool set up, so where I can when I'm doing like a IPA that I want to do dry hops in, I can add those hops and have that liquid constantly moving around by pumping it through this vessel, and it'll help move those hops around and keep things moving really nicely and the boil going really nicely as well. The reason why we boil wort is a couple reasons. Well, one of them is to sanitize it. You want to make sure that it's completely sanitized. There's no bacteria in it. You kill off anything that could grow in it by boiling. And the other thing is, if you're going to be adding hops, because you do need to add hops to your wort to make it beer. So adding hops at, say, a boiling temperature is going to extract oils from those hops, and those oils are what give you bitterness. I'm sorry, alpha acids are going to give you bitterness, and you add those hops later on while it's cool, you extract oils, and the oils are going to give you that aroma. So as you can see, that's that. And I hear music in the background because during my brew day I do play cassettes. I don't know why, but hey, I love cassettes. I grew up in that era, so I have my Sony cassette player, and here's my playlist. You know, LL Cool J, Naughty by Nature, some Metallica, some Pearl Jam, Nirvana, a little bit of a mix of everything. Anyway, this is my SS Brewtech fermenter. So the wort, after I boil the wort, chill it to a temperature where I could throw my yeast in, then I go ahead and transfer it to this guy for fermenting. So I'll show that to you a little later. Alright guys, so my mashing process is done. I have my conversion, I have my starches and my sugars, my sugars created. And I'm heating my liquor back up again so I can sparge. And what sparging is we're just going to add more liquor into that grain bed and get us some more liquid into the boil kettle. And that boil kettle, we want to collect about 6.5 gallons of wort that we will boil for 90 minutes. So as you can see, I hooked up my Brewtech, hooked up a hose coming out, going into my pump, and then I'm going to pump that back out, the wort, pump it back out into a sparge arm. And then that sparge arm is going to kind of just filter and clean up a grain bed. It's going to get all the liquid out, make all those grains fall to the bottom, and create a nice grain bed. So let's see if that works. So we're going to crank open that valve, let some wort come out, crank open this valve here, and it should be draining out down into the tank. And then we'll go ahead and kick on the motor. So we're on pump number 1. So just flip the switch, and like magic, we have the system rolling. And I could regulate down here as to how much of that wort I want to go. So I could slow it down a little bit if I want to on either end. So kind of just let it roll through like that for about 10 minutes. It'll be a good time. Alright guys, so I'm finished recycling my wort there, and went ahead and connected my water for sparging to 178 degrees around there. I want it really hot. And as you can see, I go down, feed into this pump, then that's going to go back up here, and my sparge arm's connected there. And now I'm going to collect all that wort. It's going to come out into the pump and then into my boil kettle. So let's crank open. Let's get all the liquid out first that is available. So just gravity is going to probably let that seep through and come in. There you go. This is all just gravity right now. The pump's not even on. So, you know, gravity is always nice. Try to use that whenever possible. So we'll just let that drain down. As you can see, it's going to start draining down, and it'll create a nice grain bed. Now I do use a bag that helps filter those grains. I don't want grain obviously to be in my boil kettle, so try to filter those grains out. And also there's a screen on the bottom of this mash tun that will also filter out larger you know, pieces of grains, the husks and whatnot. So the bag is really just a secondary piece of equipment to help filter. I want really clean wort moving into my kettle. I don't want chunks of grains. And as you can see, it looks super clean, very light colored. And if you could have aroma vision, you would absolutely love the aroma, because wort smells so good. It's sweet, malty, and wordy. Anyway, so that's my process going there. And once I get down to the grain bed, which is, as you can see, here's all my grains. Once I get down to that grain bed, I'm going to kick on the sparge water and get that sparge water to go through as well. And, you know, we'll let gravity work as much as it can. And I have a handy measuring stick that I created. This is a sophisticated piece of equipment, this stick here. But each notch is a gallon. So what I could do is I could just, you know, throw this in here. And I could tell, like right now, I'm at basically 3 gallons, see? So pretty close to 3 gallons. I want to collect 6.5 gallons. So that is the goal. And the grain bed is really nice and dry down there. And I'm going to go ahead and get some of this sparge water going here. So just turn that on, let that go down. Turn on open the motor up. And gravity will work there as well, typically. And if it doesn't, well, I have a pump. So as you can see, it's not working. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on pump number 2. And we'll get this rolling. All right, guys, so I went ahead and sparged and have my wort collected, and as you can see, my marks here got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 gallons. So collected 6.5 gallons, and now it's time to heat this baby up and get boiling. All right, guys, so we are up to a boil. So as you can see, we are boiling, and this is a 90-minute boil. So I do have a 60-minute hop addition, and so I set a timer for 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes I will add hops, and I am only going to do 1 hop addition. These are my hops. Just adding some Hersbrucker. These are a Hallertau. It's basically a German hop, a little typical for a wheat beer or for a Hefeweizen. So anyways, we'll let this roll for 30 minutes, and then we'll come back when we add the hops. Alright guys, so 30 minutes in now of my 90-minute boil. These are the hops right in there. If you've never seen pallet hops, those are what they look like there, and they smell very oniony. This particular hop does, but that's the one there. And we're going to add it into the boil and just sprinkle it in, a couple at a time. Don't have to go too crazy. Those hops do react with the wort, so if you add them too quickly, you get a oil will jump up at you. So don't want that to happen. Anyway, so that's 1 ounce exactly, and just added that in. And now we're going to go 60 minutes from here. Set a timer for 60 minutes. And about 30 minutes in, I'm going to add my wort chiller. This is my wort chiller, and I'll show you my system that I use for chilling wort in a minute, or 30 minutes. Alright guys, we're another 30 minutes into the boil. This will put us an hour into the boil, and still have 30 minutes to go. So got some Nirvana rocking in the background, and I'm going to add my coil. Now this is a copper coil, and it's my wort chiller, but I do have to get it into a boil because who knows what little beasties and nasties and whatnot have actually grown on this thing, right? I mean, it's kind of just been sitting around in the garage. I did clean it with a cleaner, which brings me to the next kind of phase of things I wanted to discuss is sanitization. So we have Star San and we have PBW. Now PBW will get all the you know, really big particles and stuff like that off of the kettles really well. I do run PBW through all of my kettles, my pumps and everything before the brew day even starts. So I run, actually turn on the burner in my HLT in my hot liquor tank and heat up some water with PBW in it and run it through both of my motors, run it through everything, my hoses, and then I have a bucket of Star San. Star San is just a very strong acidic sanitizer, and it kills pretty much anything. And so what I do is I fill a bucket full of Star San, and I put my hoses in there. Anything that's going to touch anything goes in Star San, just to, you know, as a precaution. Now, a lot of the brewing process, and especially after you chill this wort, everything has to be extremely sanitized. That is the biggest key. You don't want any bacteria to be growing in the beer. It has to be, you know, void of any extra bacteria sitting around that might be on a dirty spoon or anything that might touch this wort when it chills down. So anyway, there you go. So we're gonna get back up to boil and go another 30 minutes. All right, guys, so I'm nearing the end of my 90-minute boil, and I've hooked up my chilling system. So I wanted to just go over that real quick. As you know, I put the wort chiller in there at 30 minutes to go to sanitize it. And now I have my chilling system hooked up. So my chilling system is a recirculating system. So what I do, I have a submersible pump in there. This is just a regular cooler here, and there's a coil connected in that cooler. See, so the coil comes out. Got about 25 feet of 3/8 coil in there, and it connects to the pump back into the coil. So what I'm doing here is I want this water to chill, and what it's going to do is the pump's going to pump the water out, send it through this hose into the coil, and it's going to go down in there, and it's going to be cold. That hot water is going to come back out and work its way back into the cooler here. So what I do is I use blocked ice. I went ahead and chopped this thing up here, and I just throw blocked ice in here to get the temperature down. So I'm going to go ahead and add all this blocked ice in there. And what this does is, it doesn't, you know, I don't have to use so much water. That's the thing. I'm in a desert. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, trying to conserve as much water as possible. And plus our groundwater is not near the pitching temperature you would need for yeast to survive. So in that instance, I like to just use ice. And that way I recirculate the water, and, you know, no big deal. So usually I'll get down to pitching temperature. It usually takes about 30 minutes, maybe a little bit less. So anyway, just wanted to show you that, and I'm going to go ahead and start the pump and start chilling as soon as I do flame out, which is basically turning the fire off. So anyways, we'll get back to chilling it here shortly. All right, guys, so I'm nearing the end of my chilling, and you know, it's a very easy process the way I chill, and very efficient. So I have my gauge here, and we'll drop it in. And as you can see, I'm at well, 66 degrees, so I'm at my pitching temperature, so I'm done. I will go ahead and transfer this beer into my fermenter. All right, guys, so my wort is chilled, as you can see. So now the next process is to transfer the wort into my fermenter. This was filled with Star San and water. As you can see, I have my setup for my fermenter here. So I have a aerator at the end, and at the very bottom down there I have a tilt hydrometer. So that's going to actually tell me the gravity of the beer. Now gravity is basically the amount of sugar left in solution. We're able to calculate how much alcohol by volume we get out of this beer based off the gravity. So that's the reason why I use that. I'll also take a reading using a regular hydrometer and get my starting gravity, and then that tilt will tell me when the beer is done. But I will leave this in fermentation for a few weeks just to let it play its way out. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and transfer this beer, or wort, I should say, into the fermenter. And as you can see, it's aerating. Now, oxygen right now is a good thing, so we want to try to get oxygen into the wort, and that will help the yeast survive. So the next step is to transfer this all into here, and then we will pitch the yeast. All right, guys, so I went ahead and collected my wort, and this is my fermenter, and it's, you know, just a chest freezer that I can control the temperature with using this Inkbird here. As you can see, 63 degrees is where I want my temperature to be. Right now it's at 62. So this is my actual tap room I have. This is my keezer I built, the collar I made for this, and I could keep 4 beers on tap, and then when this beer's done, I chill it, I could keg it, and actually put that on tap, or you know, use a picnic tap for that, so I can have, you know, usually I can have about 6 beers on tap. Really don't need that much beer on tap though. So anyway, as you can see, this beer is in here. I'm sorry, this wort is in here in the fermenter. I do have some other beers in here. All these here are all huge, like imperial stouts and stuff like that. Stuff that, you know, you can leave at cellar temp and they're gonna do really good. Anything I had in here that might have been like a IPA or something like that, I just move it to the fridge inside the house. So anyway, I have my yeast in here. This is my Safe Ale WB06, and I have that in my Star San because these little packets, who knows what's on them, right? So I just put them in Star San, make sure that they're sanitized. I even actually threw my scissors that I cut the packet with in Star San. So again, you know, this part of the brewing process is all about being sanitary. You need to be extremely sanitary. Everything has to be clean, no bacteria, no chances. So what I'll do is I'll pop the lid, cut open the packets, and pitch the yeast. So let's check it out. So as you see, the fermenter is open. Cut open the pack of yeast with my sanitary scissors, and yeasties go in there, and I talk to my yeast. So hey guys, hopefully I made a very good solution for you guys to eat in. You guys have fun and enjoy the beer. So I do have one more pack of yeast I'll throw on the other side, and we'll let this guy go. My gravity ended up being at 62. My target was actually like around 52, so I went well above my target, which means my you know, I actually was much more efficient in my brew day today doing my step mash than I have been in the past. So I hit my number extremely well. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and pitch the other pack of yeast, and then in about 1 to 2 weeks, we will have beer, and I will have another video with a tasting on that particular beer. So thanks guys for following this video, and you know, please let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, and comment. If you have any questions about my brew day or about the brewing process, please go ahead and leave a comment below. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers!